So I previously put out a video called Best Choice Driven Games that got over 10,000 views. And not only that, but loads of you left comments with recommendations for games that I need to play that are in that genre. There were some that I'd been meaning to play for ages and some that I'd never even heard of, to be completely honest. So I went off and I played through a bunch of the recommendations that I had time to play, and I also got a little bit sidetracked and replayed a load of the choice-based games that I'd already played. And I'm back with a bunch more choice-based games that you should try out if you enjoy the genre as much as I do. Since I put out the last video, I revisited Life is Strange, and I love that game so much. It still definitely holds up and it still looks really good. I really like the art style in that game. And it's really interesting to go ahead and play all of these games a second time or play them all a few times and see how many different outcomes you can actually get from just the tiniest little decision. Because that was something I thought was really interesting in Life is Strange, is there are a few very minor decisions you make that actually have a much bigger impact on the game. Maybe not the ending of the game, I'm not 100% sure how much you can really change with the ending of it. I'm only on the end of chapter 3 at the minute in my replay, but hopefully my playthrough will be going up on the channel soon. I keep getting sidetracked by just wanting to record new things and being really excited to record new videos that I'm just not leaving myself enough time to edit everything I'm recording. So hopefully those will be going up soon. I'll keep you updated over on my social media, which is in the description if you want to follow that. I still haven't actually played Life is Strange 2 or Before the Storm, so if those are really good, let me know in the comments if they're better than the first one or not as good as the first one, and let me know if you think I should play them and do a playthrough on the channel. A game from the recommendations that I still haven't actually got around to playing because I'm saving it for when I start streaming on Twitch is Man of Medan. But a lot of people mentioned this game since I think it has quite a similar vibe to Until Dawn, and I talked about how much I loved that game in the first video. So I think a lot of people have recommended this because it's quite similar to that.
Right on, Radical. I like the cut of your ship. It's jib. Don't ruin it.
So from what I've seen, it seems like a game to check out if you love the kind of cheesy moments and jump scare horror of Until Dawn. Just in case everyone watching this hasn't seen the original video, I do want to talk about the games that I mentioned there quite quickly, and also some new thoughts about those games. Just so y'all don't bully me down in the comments because I'm missing out a bunch of good games that have been mentioned in the previous one. The first game that I mentioned in that video was Firewatch, which to me is a game that just sums up, it's the perfect example of just how much emotion you can put into a game through the atmosphere. Because the atmosphere of a game has to be like the perfect blend of all of these other little elements, and I think Firewatch does that so well. The eeriness of that game is like unsettling, but in a good way. This Stanley Parable is one of those games that just makes you question everything. This one is a really interesting game to me because the whole point of the game itself is to actually make you question whether you have the ability of choice or not. It's a really funny and really self-aware game, and it kind of gives you a set of rules, but it breaks all of them. So if you want to have a good laugh and play a good choice-based game, I would definitely recommend giving the Stanley Parable a go. Detroit Become Human was such a great blend of gaming and cinema. It just kind of felt like an interactive film, and as a filmmaker, that was really, really impressive. But looking back at the game now in today's climate, I think is really interesting. Back when I first played the game, I purposefully went for a peaceful route throughout the whole game, and I tried to avoid violence in every option, in every interaction. But now after educating myself on the civil rights movement and Black Lives Matter movements and learning way more about that, I don't know if I would think that the peaceful route would be the best approach to take to it. I'm saying this because there are obvious links throughout the whole game between androids in this fictional society and how they're treated, and people of colour, especially black people, and how they're treated in our reality. I'd be interested in maybe not seeing a sequel, but hear some of the developers and creators of that game talk about if they would do anything differently with it, and if the peaceful route would still have the outcome that it has if that game was made in today's climate. Because I think we've all seen that peaceful protests just don't work. So would a more violent approach in the game have a different outcome if the game was made now? I think this is getting a bit too deep, so I am going to move on, but that's something I really would be interested to see how the game would change if it was made now. Let me know what you think in the comments. Heavy Rain is another choice-based game that I absolutely love. It's dark, it's gritty, it's really interesting. The storytelling in that game is pretty unique in that it's really slow-paced, especially at the beginning, and there's a slow build, but it doesn't really feel like it's dragging. Or when it does feel like it's dragging, it's for a purpose in the game usually, or it just feels a bit comedic. One of my favourite things in that game is it genuinely feels like your choices do matter, and every decision you make, even unknowingly, seems to impact the outcome of the game. And I remember in my first playthrough of this game, I was talking to my friend about my experience playing the game, and he asked me what I thought about a scene that he thought was really stressful, and I had no clue what he was talking about because I didn't play that entire scene. He was talking about what sounded to me like such a big, important part of the story, but because we made a slightly different decision, I didn't get any of that scene and I had a completely different thing happen. And it was literally, I went and picked up a leaflet and he didn't. He did something else. He like sat down and had a conversation with someone, and I just walked in a house, picked up a leaflet and left. And it was just like that tiny decision had his character, their life was in danger, and my character was completely fine and just walked out like nothing had happened. And I really hate like when a game builds itself up to be, oh, your choices matter, they're really important, but in reality they're not, and your choices don't really change anything in the game. But Heavy Rain feels like the complete opposite of that. It really feels like all of your choices do matter. And I want to do another playthrough of Heavy Rain, but pick all of the kind of worst options or all of the options that I just wouldn't normally pick to see how different the game ends up being. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. Another game that I talked about in my original video is Until Dawn. One of my favorite parts of Until Dawn is the like Shattered Memory Silent Hill style therapy sessions that you have, and then depending on the choices you make in that, those actually impact what you see in the game. So if you say you're really scared of snakes, you'll see snakes in the game, and I think that's really interesting because if someone has a specific fear, it's going to use that to its advantage. So even little choices like that, I think really are, it's such a great idea, and I don't know why more games don't do that, especially choice-based games. But I would say the main word I would use to describe Until Dawn is cheesy. So if you don't like the kind of 80s style cheesy horror movie type vibe, probably not the game for you, but it is really, really good. All the characters are just stereotypes, and it's a big jump scare game, but I really, really enjoy that game. It's one of my favourite games of all time. Now, onto some of the recommendations that I got in the comments. If there are any games that I still managed to miss that haven't been recommended to me yet, please do let me know in the comments, because I would love to keep playing all of these. I still have some on my list that I need to play. And let me know what your favourite games are that I mentioned in this video, and what your least favourite ones are. A game that I've been meaning to play for a long time that I only got around to playing after I'd recorded the last video is Beyond Two Souls. And the reason I've been wanting to play this game for so long is because it's made by Quantic Dream, who also make Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, and Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. I had been told that this game isn't as good as Detroit or Heavy Rain, so I feel like I was going into it with kind of the right level of expectations, but I was still kind of pleasantly surprised by the game. I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as Heavy Rain or Detroit, but I still thought this was a really good game. The performances and the voice acting are just, it's incredible. And I think for me that kind of helped heighten what I thought was a little bit of a lackluster story. It doesn't really feel like your choices matter much in this game, which is one of my least favourite aspects of it. But I still think overall it's definitely worth playing, and it's an interesting game, and it is fun to play. And honestly, I would recommend playing it just to see Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe's performances in it. Now let's talk about one of Quantic Dream's really early games from 2005, Indigo Prophecy. I honestly wasn't expecting too much from this game, just seeing as like, I'd never played it, and there's so many games that have come out since then in this genre that are more modernized versions. I kind of figured that the improvements that Quantic Dream had made since this game would kind of render this a little bit of a dud, but I really, really enjoyed it. I went in completely blind and I had no idea what the story was about or anything, and I think that's kind of the best way to do this if you can play this game without knowing anything, because I feel like I'm the only person that hasn't played this game. Everyone recommended it to me, and although it's like, it is clunky and it definitely looks clunky, I can imagine it being absolutely great for its time, and I do still think it's a good game to play now. I do kind of hate some of the quick time event sequences. It feels like in the remaster that could have kind of been handled a little bit better. But other than that, I would say I definitely recommend it if you enjoy the games that Quantic makes now. One of the games that actually caused a bit of a debate in the comments of the last video was TellTale's The Walking Dead. Now again, I'm fully cheating because I haven't played this game yet. It's another one that I kind of want to play either in a playthrough or over on Twitch, so I'm saving it for that. But I have played some of the other TellTale games, like TellTale Game of Thrones, and if the decision making is at all comparable, which based on the comments of the last video it kind of seems like it is, then I don't know how fully I would categorize these as choice-based games. I know that I'm probably going to get a little bit of hate for talking about this, but I did enjoy playing TellTale Game of Thrones. It's just that none of the decisions mattered at all in the game. And it didn't feel like much of a game to me. It felt more like an interactive story, if that makes any sense. And in at least the Game of Thrones Telltale game, I actually went back and replayed parts of it and made completely different decisions. And all of them kind of had the same basic outcome, like all of the same characters died in the end and everything. And there was just, I think, one major decision that actually had a slightly different impact, but it was the same story, just with a different character playing the lead in that bit. So I'll definitely at some point, once I've played Telltale The Walking Dead, give my opinion of just that game and not Telltale games as a whole. But feel free to start another discussion in the comments with your thoughts on Telltale The Walking Dead. Should I bother playing it? Is it any good? Is it something you would class as a choice-driven game, or is it more of an interactive story the way the Game of Thrones one was? I haven't actually played much of the Assassin's Creed series at all. It's always been a series that I've wanted to get around to, but I feel like I just kind of missed the hype with it, and now there are so many games that I need to catch up on and play. But I did get the recommendation to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And I know the main criticism of this game is that it doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game, but obviously I didn't have that problem because I haven't played many of the other ones. So for me, I just enjoyed playing it. I had quite a lot of fun in this game. I know this game gets a lot of hate, and it's not one of the most popular games at all, so I will have to go and play the rest of the Assassin's Creed series before everyone yells at me, but I did enjoy playing this. I think that it's got some good decisions that you have to make in the game that kind of make you question your morals and the morals in the game. Though I don't know if it's just me being absolutely terrible at games, but I found this game quite difficult to play at some points. Like, the way the ranking system works, it's kind of difficult to play no matter how much you level up. But again, maybe that's just a me being bad at games issue. A game that I just don't know how I managed to miss is Oxenfree. I love everything horror, especially when it's like not straight up horror and it's more unsettling and it leaves you to think about it after you finish the game or the film, whatever horror thing it is. Those are my favourite things, and that's definitely what Oxenfree is. I saw an article that compared Oxenfree to the film It Follows, and I think in terms of atmosphere, that's definitely a good comparison. One of the things that I really like about Oxenfree is that the dialogue is actually good. It's stuff like Life is Strange, where the dialogue just feels so clunky and weird and awkward, where you've got teenagers being just like, hey, what's hanging, bruh? And it's like, nobody talks like that, especially not these artsy photography nerds. And you've got them saying things that just teenagers never say. Nobody's ever said these things. So I'm so happy that although Oxenfree has teenagers in it, it doesn't have any of that weird, awkward dialogue, and it feels a lot more natural. A game that I'm going to play really, really soon that was recommended to me. I know I'm saying this for a lot of these, but there's just so much that I want to play. And I thought I had loads of time to get some games done recently, but then Fall Guys came out and that's all me and my friends have wanted to play. But the game that I want to play through next is Borderlands. I think some of the Borderlands games were free on Epic Store at some point, so I do have those installed and ready to play. So hopefully I'll get around to playing those quite soon, and then I can give my full opinion on those games, either in their own video or maybe just over on my social media. Honestly, I'm so thankful for how well the first video did. I really didn't expect that. It was the first video I uploaded on the channel ever, and there were so many recommendations that I haven't had time to play. Like, here are some more things that got recommended. There was The Wolf Among Us, Mass Effect, Erica, Spec Ops, The Line, The Banner Saga, Disco Elysium, and Late Shift, which, from what I've heard, is kind of more of an interactive movie than a game, but it's supposed to be good. And those were all of the recommendations that I got from people. I hope this gave you a nice long list of games to check out if you love choice-based games as much as I do. And thank you so much for the 10,000 views on the first video. And definitely thank you for anyone who has stuck around since then. I really appreciate all of you. Hopefully this was a good enough follow-up video, and hopefully I played enough of the new ones for this to be a good video. And I'll keep you all updated on any new choice-driven games that I play. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time.